Grief is a big deal. It's a big deal, and we are a grief-stricken culture in North America.
Hmm.
Look at climate change. Look at
Yeah.
look at the political environment. Look at the economic
Hmm.
environment. There's grief everywhere,
Yeah.
dying all over the place, and we just think it's news.
Mm,
We're going so
yeah.
fast, we don't even give ourselves an opportunity to catch up with the grief that just happened as we're watching
Yeah.
the forest fire.
All right. So welcome to the Infinite Wisdom Experience. They say death is the great equalizer. But what if that's only part of the story? Death doesn't just end life, it reshapes families, communities, and even spiritually in ways we rarely understand. It redefines us. So, what if the fear of death is actually holding you back from living fully? Today, we confront one of humanity's biggest taboos with our good friend and colleague, Reverend Stephen Garrett. I call Stevie G. That's my buddy Stevie G. And nobody else can use that but me and my family, by the way. Um, and we're going to explore how the truth about dying disrupts everything we think about life, loss, and love.
Hmm.
And here's a few questions we dare you to ask. Is our panic about death making it even harder to die or live? In this infinite wisdom experience, we'll go beyond the cliches and uncover the raw, often hidden realities of death and dying, and how facing them can unlock unexpected wisdom that might change your life. You're in for a treat. Welcome, Stephen Garrett.
All right. All right. Fantastic. Nice intro, Gary.
Thanks. Thanks.
Stephen, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
This has been something that we've been wanting to do for quite some time. I think it was just been a matter of getting schedules to match and just to make it happen because this is such a profound subject and it's has such a taboo around it.
Yeah,
So
100%.
why do you think that? How do you view death that is so, I guess I'm just going to use the word different from the norm of what people have been. Well, I think it's mostly just Western culture, isn't it?
Pretty much. North
Okay.
America has been
All right.
pretty
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, my relationship with death is quite unique. Um, I hold death as my dear, inspiring teacher. That may sound odd. My email address is embraceyourdeath.com. Um, and the reason I've done that, fellas, is because May the 5th, 1988, my sweet dear sister Jody, God bless her, died suddenly and unexpectedly. She just was gone from the planet, no warning, nothing. It turned my life upside down. And I remember as I was lowering her dear body into the gravesite, because back in those days, family was involved. It wasn't the funeral business so much. I made a promise to Jody. I said, sweetheart, I don't know what happened. This makes no sense to me. I'm going to find out what the hell death is all about. And I've kept
Mhm.
my promise. And
Indeed.
Mhm.
so I have a very unique view of death. It's actually a teacher. If we can just get over the bad brand of the Grim Reaper. That brand was developed in 1340 by the Judeo-Christian religions to frighten their parishioners. They used death as a tool to increase membership in the churches. I'm I'm
Oh,
prof-
wow.
I'm profoundly spiritual. I'm a profoundly spiritual fellow. Not particularly religious, even though I am a reverend. I
Mhm.
come from the muck that all religions come from, which is spirit. So I have a very unique relationship. I lean into death. I befriend it. I welcome it. My mother-in-law, right at this very moment, is struggling with progressive bulbar palsy. She's heading out. It's right in my home. It's happening here. And I'm doing my best to befriend it so that my family can come closer together in the death instead of being spread further apart. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this real, and it takes a little bit of breathing and a lot of courage to lean into death this way. But my life is more alive. I am more passionate. I am more on fire than I've ever been. And I've known Gary for a long, long time. I am like fired up. And when I ask myself the question, why, it's because I'm leaning into death. And I know I got this life to live. Whether I'm reincarnated again or not matters not. In this body, I got this life, and I know it's finite. And, we live on this crazy bipolar planet, guys. There's a North Pole and a South Pole. So we swim in these opposites, life and death,
Yeah,
Hmm.
love and grief.
yeah,
We tend to prefer life and love, and we tend to be averse to death and grief, but you can't push half a coin away.
yeah,
Push your death away, you push your life away. If you push your grief away, you push your love away. Come
absolutely.
on.
Yeah, well, it's like, and it's a great analogy, and you and I've had many conversations about that analogy. I think that the thing to realize and remember is that yes, we have the North Pole and the South Pole, but there's also the equator and everything in between. All right. And I think what you're getting people to explore is that the fullness of it all,
Yes.
right? Instead of the extremities of them all. And in doing that, we can then live more of the life that we do have at whatever stage that we're in it in the moment.
100%.
Yeah. So I'd like you to rewind just a little bit, Stephen, because a lot of people won't know this or may not know this if they haven't seen any of your other stuff. I'd like you to roll back to what got you started in this? Because Ross and I were there at that initial stage in a hot tub,
Hmm.
and we were talking about it right in that phrase, right in that stage. And I'd like you to kind of share that story because I think it's important for people to get why you chose this as a path to go down in a time when nobody was talking about it.
Yeah.
Now it seems fairly common to have, death doulas. It seems fairly common, but back then it was like non-existent at all.
Yeah,
Yep.
that conversation was kind of like a say what?
Yeah,
You want a what?
yeah,
It, as always, for something to be birthed, something has to die.
hmm,
Right? So who I was before I became a cremationist, who I was before I became a grief counselor, who I was before I became a death doula, who was I before I became a death shaman, all that had to die.
yeah.
And it began, oddly enough, with a trip to Varanasi, India, where I was sitting on the steps of the Ghats, watching Hindi families cremate their loved one right in broad daylight, right in front of my nose. Like, holy smokes, what's going on here? And what I noticed was how beautiful it was. This may sound very odd to your listeners. It sounded odd to me in the first time I looked at it. This is beautiful. And the family was gathered around the funeral pyre. They prayed, they danced, they cried, they laughed. Then they scooped up all the ashes and they found little bits of their loved one and they put them in a little kind of floating thing and out onto the Ganga River. I thought, oh man, we got to do this in Canada. And and we don't. We don't. Um, the funeral business kicked in the early 20th century. The medicalization of death kicked in 1910 with the big pharmaceutical families taking over. So they actually robbed death from the family. They actually robbed funerals from
Mm,
the family, and they corporatized and privatized it. Um, we lost our connection with death. We lost our connection with grief. We lost our connection with building a casket. We lost our connection with digging a grave. We lost our connection with that whole beautiful ritual of saying goodbye.
Hmm.
So now we just kind of sit there, in the church or at the funeral home with our hands in our laps and kind of go through the motions.
Yeah, well, they branded the
Right.
ease of it, right? They branded the ease. Oh, you don't
Yeah,
have to handle that. We'll take care of
we
it.
get
And
that.
so it took
Mhm.
that burden off of people, right?
But
Yeah,
in removing that burden,
exactly.
they actually removed the compost of our human growth,
Mm.
you know, and I was right beside my brother Peter when he died, you know. It's so hard. It's
Mm.
so hard to see a loved one die, but it's so inspiring in an interesting way.
The paradox of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and Pete's last words to me were, "Don't be like me, Stephen. Live your ass off. Don't hold back. Live your ass off." He said that to me
Hmm.
Hmm.
before he died. Wow. Did that take courage? Don't
Yeah.
be like me, Stephen. Live your ass off. I always held back. Woo. When you
Hmm.
feel that kind of regret at a deathbed, woo,
Right.
I'm not going out like my
Mhm.
brother did. I'm living my ass off. And that's
Hmm.
a direct result of me turning towards my brother's death and leaning into it with him and having that wisdom passed on from my dear sweet brother Peter to me. God bless him,
Hmm.
you know? And this is the beauty of it.
So you're in India and you have this experience. Then what's the next evolution for you to get into where you're going? What you've created so far?
I became a cremationist. I went to the Vancouver crematorium because I met the yogi who tended the Shiva fire in Varanasi, and he did a ceremony with me and punched me in the shoulder. And what the heck's that? I think what he did was he knocked me into my incarnation as a cremationist.
Hmm.
So
Ah,
I jumped
wow.
into the funeral business to learn about it. I want to see what's it really like in there.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I became a cremationist, and what a job
Literally threw yourself into the
I d-
Yeah.
absolutely 1700 degrees hot, man. It was hot. And what I did was I tried to help the families come into the crematorium. One last goodbye to your loved one. Help me push the casket into the furnace. Help me, you know, and get involved. And I
Hmm.
did really well at that. They're called witness cremations. And so,
Hmm.
but what I did was I slowed the process down a bit too much for the business. So they asked me to leave. And that was perfect.
How did you find so Stephen, how did you find the families respond to that?
You know what, Gary? I was shocked. I was nervous. But I
Hmm.
gotta tell you, when they were given permission to be involved, they
Yeah.
jumped at it.
Nice.
They loved it. They loved to say goodbye one last time and just to
Hmm.
be themselves in the privacy of a much smaller space. You know, it's their loved one,
Yeah.
you know?
So I want to step into what you just said, though, that you slowed the process down.
Yes,
In other words, you were a cog in the assembly line.
I was.
Okay. And they're like, no, you're causing revenue to come down or profits to come down. That doesn't work for us.
Yep,
This is a business,
yep.
And the slowing
right?
down you did was what, Stephen? What was the slowing down that you did?
I really want people to get this, to really,
Yeah.
really get this.
I um I invited families to come into the crematorium, to come in and say goodbye to their loved one last time. I remember one of the first families I did that with, it was their son. He was 19. He died of cancer. You know, life snipped at a
Hmm.
very young age. Mom and
Hmm.
dad and brother were there, and I saw them. They just looked stunned. And so my heart opened wide to them, and I said, "Would you like to come in for one last goodbye?"
Hmm.
And they said, "We could do that." I said, "I'll make it happen." So I just invited them in, and we
Hmm.
went around the casket in the industrial kind of complex of a crematorium.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It didn't feel like that. It felt more like a sacred space.
Hmm.
And, I saw Mom put her hand on the casket and the tears
Mm.
started pouring. I said, would you like to have one last look and one last kiss goodbye? She said, could I? I said, 100%. So I just opened the casket lid and they gathered around and they touched his beautiful face. And oh my God, I was crying with them. How could you
Mm.
not?
Yeah.
I was just in the emotion with them. I wasn't drawing
Hmm.
attention to myself. I was just a villager helping.
Yeah.
Right.
And I put my hands on the mom and dad's shoulder, and the other son was in between mom and me. I said, I think it's time to say goodbye.
Hmm.
Guided a little bit, and they said, yeah, they all tapped their heart. They said one last goodbye. I encouraged mom to close the casket lid because she birthed son in.
Yeah.
So I
Hmm.
encouraged mom to close the casket lid.
Right.
I got dad and brother to help me push the casket into the funeral fire.
Oh, wow.
I had the young boy push the button to close the door.
Wow.
I had dad push the button to start the flames. They were
Mm.
actually physically involved with the
Actively involved in that
Hmm.
closure process,
Wow.
which,
yes,
wow.
Wow.
yes. That physical activity is so important. It's the gas pedal of our grief.
Yeah.
So to interject, can those that are listening, if they're in that stage, our hearts are out to them, can they request something like that?
Yes. It's called a witness cremation. And they may
Right.
have to pay a little bit more for it, but
Yeah.
it's available. And I strongly recommend it if that's where your heart's at.
Hmm.
If you're ready
Yeah.
for that, it's such a beautiful thing. You can actually even lower the casket yourself into the ground if it's a burial.
Mm.
Hmm.
Take charge of the death rituals.
Mm.
Funeral directors are there to help and support, but they tend to
Yeah.
direct to control. And I'm not putting
Yeah.
funeral directors down, man. They got a really amazing job. The
Yeah.
business is separate than the funeral director.
Yeah.
So we as individuals can take control of the death rituals and the death ceremonies. It's our loved one.
Hmm.
We're signing the Visa card, Bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's just that we've
Yeah.
forgotten that we can do that, and we're not told that we can.
Because
Right.
again, that pattern, that branding of give up that responsibility has been conditioned in, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We just think that's the way it
Yeah.
has to be.
Yeah. You're literally told you don't want to be part of this.
Oh, yes,
Hmm.
I do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Um, so is something like that, is this personal touch, is this offered, or is it just kind of, if they ask, yeah, we'll do it, but let's not offer it because it slows the process down?
Generally speaking, with the large multinational funeral home consortiums, and they have lots of funeral homes. There's one called Service Corporation International out of Houston, Texas, who owns 55% of all funeral homes in BC.
Holy
More than
cows.
half. So they got a big clutch on the business.
Mm.
In the
Hmm.
smaller family-run businesses, it's a little different. Um, and you can make a request of any funeral home,
Mm.
and the funeral director will respond and will support and will help.
Hmm.
But it's up to us to
To
remember.
know that we have the choice, right? Because people
Yeah,
don't know they have the
Right.
choice, and that's kind of what I want you to share, so people understand
Exactly.
they have that choice.
yeah. When you walk into a funeral home, you go into a big, huge room full of caskets and urns and all kinds of memorabilia. And you sit at a big table with a funeral director, and he's got a big contract, and you got to make a whole bunch of choices.
Hmm.
That's hard to do at the
Yeah.
time of death.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do that 6 years ahead, 5 years ahead. I've already made my funeral arrangements,
Yeah.
all done. I know exactly
Hmm.
what I want and what I don't want. When I'm of sound mind and body, and I'm not emotionally charged by the death I've just
Right.
experienced, I make better decisions.
Yeah.
Sometimes, there's a buyer's remorse thing that happens post-funeral.
Hmm.
Families just spent 10 and a half, $11,000 on a funeral, which is the average cost of a funeral in Canada these days.
Wow.
There is such a thing as
Crazy.
funeral poverty.
Hmm.
They look back and, when I was a cremationist, the casket they bought and paid $5,000 for, $6,000 for,
Went up in
I burnt
flames.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I burnt it.
Right.
Money
Yeah.
up in smoke.
Yeah.
Why not lease a casket with a cardboard insert that you can slide
Mm.
out, put the cardboard lid on. The individual is still in a casket,
Hmm.
a different
Mm.
casket with a different impact on the environment and with a different
Yeah.
Right.
impact on the
Hmm.
pocketbook.
Yeah.
But people don't know this because we don't talk about death and dying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And this is why it's so important that we do.
So where do people begin in terms of planning and making these kinds of decisions, since you?
Well, there's a great organization called the Memorial Society of BC. Uh,
Okay.
they're there to
So
help.
that's for us in Canada. What about the US? Because we've got a global audience. Where would they search for?
I would, you know what? I would search for an end of life doula.
Hmm.
I might go to a hospice.
Okay.
I might go straight
Hmm.
to a funeral home
Hmm.
and go there when I don't have to make the arrangements tomorrow and
Yes.
Right.
ask some questions. Hey guys, I'm 75. I'm going to be heading out in 5 or 10 years. What kind of things do I have to ponder around
Hmm.
my funeral arrangements so that when I am heading out, it's
Yeah.
easier for my family?
Yeah.
Right.
What kind of things do I have to think about?
And I know you talk and promote a lot of involving family and community. Would you have family members there as a part of that conversation?
100%.
Yeah.
I've sat down with my two boys, Ollie and Ben. They're 31 and 33. They know exactly what's going on with me. They know that don't put me in a long-term care home.
Mhm.
Take me to the woods, let the bears have me before you do that. And guys, I want you to have the money from my estate.
Yeah.
I want a basic,
Right.
simple cremation in a cardboard box. No
Hmm.
frills. You
Yeah.
guys get to create a celebration of life. I want you to drink some rum and coke there. I want you to play some cribbage, that kind of stuff. But I'm not heading out for 10 or 15 or 20 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm still prepared.
Right.
And the beauty of that is my boys are learning to talk about death in an
Yeah.
open, honest way. They're not so afraid of it anymore.
Hmm.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, they spend a bit more time with me than they used to because they know I'm not around forever.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
that's
it
what I would
and that openness also takes so much of the strain off of the family
yes,
when the time comes, where they're
100%.
just like, okay, open the envelope, here's all the instructions, and that have generally been pre-planned.
Yep.
Um, my wife and I are in the process with our in-laws, my in-laws, who are, both in their 90s and such,
Yep.
but we're very open about everything.
Good.
And it's not a difficult conversation. It's just like, this is what I want. This is where it's going to be done.
Yep.
Things changed from the way they were 20 years ago in their mind. They're like, well, this was what I was going to do 20 years ago, but now as the things have, my life has changed, people have changed and all that kind of stuff. Now I want to do it like this instead.
Yep.
And I'm like, at first it's kind of I don't want to say difficult conversation, but there's a twinge, there's just
Good.
like, oh, okay, but well, this has to be done.
Yep.
This conversation must be done now.
Yep.
As you said, while I'm, cognizant of what their wishes are, and
100%.
and I'm not in that emotional state.
Yep.
I recall when my older brother died tragically, unexpectedly and such, and there was just this chaos.
Yep.
And it's just like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? It was just all over the place.
Yep.
And as to where when my mother passed, she had left instructions. This is how it happens. This is where I want to be. Blah 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 blah. And so it makes a huge difference. I mean, the services that you're providing, I don't think people can comprehend it.
Yeah.
I really, really don't. I
Or the
think,
impact of it, right? I mean, because
yeah,
even just in what you're talking about there, I think that because I think that some people do, like in their will, they'll say they want this, this, and this, and that. But if that's not understood, or predetermined prior to the actual death. And then all of a sudden, the family gets together and they hear this, but they have different ideas of how they wanted to do it, or it should
Right.
have been done.
Yeah.
Then that's where the family conflicts start to happen. And you have these total. I mean, I've heard some horror stories about families going through this stuff, and just based on one person's preference, how it just totally demolishes a family.
Yeah. Families oftentimes, when they're not ready, would rather fight than grieve
Yeah.
because the
Hmm.
rawness of grief, the realness of it is so intense and so difficult to hold that fighting is the way the energy gets expressed. That's easy.
Right.
Dad wanted me to have the car. You know,
Energy has to come out somewhere. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it comes out
Right.
crooked instead of
Yeah.
straight as grief.
Pure.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I think I want to differentiate as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this subject is totally separate in most cases than a will,
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
so that people understand is that we're not talking about the arguments about who gets the family china.
Yep.
It's such that's totally separate.
Yep.
Although I think a lot of these instructions
Components of,
can
right?
be part of a will,
Yeah.
Yep.
possibly. But this is totally, totally separate. You should actually have your end of life instructions and then you should have your will.
Mhm.
So what I've done,
Okay.
when my dad died way back in 2004, we had never had a conversation like this before. My dad never. I fly back to Toronto. Dad's in a hospital. He's plugged into all kinds of machines, and mom doesn't know what the hell to do. We've never talked about it. And so,
Hmm.
I'm in the hallway outside my dad's hospital room with my mom. The doctor comes out and says, "Well, should we unplug him?" What? Right in the middle of the hallway. I said,
Oh my goodness.
"Yeah, true story." I said,
That's
"Doctor,
harsh.
yeah,
Wow.
totally harsh." So anyway, we got a room and we sat down, mom and I. We'd never had that conversation in my life.
Right.
My dad's lying on life support.
Yeah.
Mom and I are having a conversation without him there
Right.
because he can't talk.
Right.
Mm.
So I said to Mama, I don't know, Mom, like he can't golf anymore. He can't
Yeah.
play cribbage. His friends stay for 3 seconds if they stay at all. He,
Hmm.
he can't have a rum and coke. He can't have his favorite grilled cheese sandwich. I don't think he's got much of life in there. I'm guessing, but I think maybe we should unplug him. What do you think, Mom? I mean,
Right.
imagine
Yeah.
Yeah.
knowing that and having that experience. I said to myself, my boys aren't going to go through that. So I've created an all ready to go binder,
Mm.
which is my will, my power of attorney, my representation agreements, who can talk to the medical system on my behalf if
Hmm.
I can't, because that's different
Hmm.
than my executive. And what do I want from the medical system and what don't I want? And then I've got a piece
Right.
on, my celebration of life. I've got a piece on my burial, my cremation. I've got a piece on what I like to leave behind. I've got all kinds of
Mm.
stuff in this lovely little binder that everybody's seen. It's
Yeah.
public domain, and
Yeah.
where it lives. And I got to tell you, that was an awkward conversation, 100% with my boys. Oh man, I don't want to
Yeah.
Yeah.
not see them ever again, and they don't want to ever not see me again, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
After we had our meal, we had some beer and some pizza, and I had my all ready to go binder in the center of the table. We just had a chat about it. We just spoke about it, and it was difficult. But a couple of years later, Benny's getting engaged. He's got a car, he's got a truck, he's got money, he's got dogs and all kinds of stuff. He said to me, Dad, what do you think? Should I start an all ready to go binder? And I didn't answer him. I said, I
Yeah.
don't know, Benny. What do you think?
Yeah.
We talked about it back and forth. He said, Dad, I think you're right. I'm going to start my binder.
That's
Hmm.
nice.
So
That's awesome. Nice
already,
generational transformation.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
yes.
I remember bringing this topic up with my wife. And my big thing was just like, listen, if I get in a car accident or something happens and I'm brain dead, whatever the case may be, I do not want to be a burden.
Yep.
I do not want to be just existing on the couch in a pair of diapers, drooling. I says, so there's a pistol in the garage. It's got one bullet in it. All right. So that's my instructions. And then
Yeah.
I said, but you got to do one thing first. She's like, what's that? I said, get a second opinion. You know, so
Good
but what
one.
I did is I opened up the topic with levity.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just like, listen, I said, this, I mean, we buried, her brother and her father and my mother and my brother. And I said, so these things are happening. I said, and you see the chaos
Yes.
that ensues.
Yeah.
And you see, and this is what I love about what you're doing is that, and you see that there's no closure.
Yeah.
There's no closure. And I've even come to the point where I'm just like, I've seen the ads for what are they called? The pods?
Yes.
I That's just so cool. Gary, you know what that is? The pod where they put your body into this biodegradable pod and
Oh,
then they plant a tree on top of you
Yep.
oh, wow. Okay.
and you become the
Nice
tree.
tombstone.
I mean, it's freaking cool. I
That's
mean, it really
awesome.
is. And I'm just like, I said, that's me.
Yep.
That
Huh.
feels like me. That is more nature. That is more, out there and
That's
I'm
cool. Do you get to
giving
pick the
back.
type of tree?
I'm pretty
That'd be
sure you can.
cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I have to
Yeah.
look into that.
It's
Yeah.
really, really cool.
Yep.
And you're I think you're kind of like this. You're straight up and then the pod is
Mm,
kind of and then yeah, there's a tree in the top.
nice.
And I saw something earlier this week about the biodegradable caskets
Yes.
Mm,
where they break down just as the body breaks down. So I mean,
Yep.
so there are people out there that are thinking outside the box. They're looking at the system that we have that is industrialized and such and saying that's not it. I mean, if I had the ultimate dream, it would be put me in a boat, set it on fire, and do what my ancestors did and push me out into the ocean.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but so I think people need to understand that there's options. There's
Yep.
so many different options.
100%.
And but we, as you said, we have been basically conditioned or programmed to, nope, this is the way it is, check please. And I think people really need to understand that. And I simply cannot stress the idea of becoming part of the process and getting that closure
Yep.
because
It's
it's so
so
difficult.
it's so important, Ross. You nailed it. The more involved we are in the process,
Hmm.
all those little steps are like little mini rituals.
Yeah.
And rituals are really important to bring closure.
Hmm.
Rituals are also really important at these times of chaos because they give us a sense of control back.
yeah.
Right.
I can light a candle. Oh,
That's
I
a
can
good
light some
point. Yeah.
incense. It returns a sense of control at a time of being out of control.
Hmm.
And so those rituals are really, really important. And your point about bringing humor in is equally as important. Um, Not as a distraction from the grief, but as a
Right.
complement, as a balance.
That's
Hmm.
an entry point. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember one day my sweet dear brother Peter, he's in the 15th floor stem cell transplant department of the Vancouver General Hospital. It's like the doctors are in there, the nurses are in there, my mom's there, his wife, my sisters, and there's this heavy, dark energy in the room that was palpable. It was like it just felt like sludge. And I couldn't help myself. I walked into the room. Pete's lying in the bed. I said, "Good morning, Kimosabi. How you doing?" And without wasting a second, Peter said, "Tonto, pretty shitty." And he and I burst out laughing. A doctor in the back corner saw us having fun. He started to snicker. The nurse burst out laughing, and my mom went, "Oh, Stevie." But what happened was it balanced the energy. It brought
Hmm.
life back into the room. Humor is so misunderstood and such an important complement when grief comes knocking,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. When we went to it was ironic when my family got together for my mother's funeral. I mean, the the funeral director was appalled at us because we were laughing and we were
Yeah.
joking, and and if he would want to bring up something serious, but as far as well, where do you want us to ship the body? And my brother just, oh, I'll never forget this. My brother says, well, she's being cremated, right? And he's like, yes. He goes, well, shipping should be a lot less, you know. And we all just hit the floor laughing, and this guy's just appalled. He's just like, "This is your mother," And I got up off the floor and I said, "Listen," I said, "this is what my mother would have wanted.
Yes. Thank you.
You don't know my mother. This is what she
Yeah.
would have wanted."
Yeah.
And it was the one time that she finally got us all together
Yep.
you know and but so everybody handles things differently, and the very first funeral I ever went to, um I I was cracking jokes,
Yep.
and I'm and afterwards, and it was my best friend's father, and I'm just and he's just, people were, again, they were kind of appalled. He's like, no, he goes, that's what dad would have wanted.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, and your dad was my dad, so but we all have our different ways. And nowadays, as I've gotten older, I kind of read the room. I'm like, okay, this is not, I got to control myself. But
Perhaps.
that's, we have
Perhaps.
to, look at what's going on
Yep.
and just honor the person for who they are.
Yep. 100%. And honor them in our own grief language.
Right.
You remember there was that book out, The Five Love Languages?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, part of my soon to be released book, Grief's Walking Stick, is the seven languages of sorrow.
Mm.
And what I've
Oh,
noticed is we have
nice.
different languages to express our grief in.
Yes, we do.
Some people love to write, some people love to talk, some people love
Hmm.
to dance, some people love
Hmm.
to draw. There's
Hmm.
everything right about those different languages.
Right.
And if we can help individuals and families discover, little Tommy's doodling, it doesn't mean he's not
Hmm.
grieving. Look at what
Yeah.
he's drawing and you'll see he's grieving.
Right.
Yeah.
So the seven languages of sorrow is a really helpful tool because it allows us to recognize, oh, Gary's just sitting on his meditation cushion breathing. It doesn't mean he's not grieving. He's grieving in the way of a seeker
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
meditating. Wow, that's cool. All right, Ross, you can dance and we'll have an orchestra of grief instead of
Hmm.
a one language grief. Do you get
So
the
do you see those as good tools to navigate the conversation about end of life without making it feel morbid or rushed?
Yeah, 100%. I was working with
Hmm.
a mom and a 7-year-old boy, and
Yeah.
dad had died unexpectedly. Mom was a talker. We're on a Zoom call and she's looking at me. She's trying to get her little boy to look at me, and he's busy
Hmm.
doing something. So I said to Mom, hey, go get a glass of water for a few minutes. And I leaned into the screen. I looked down. I said, dude, what you doing down there? He said, oh, I'm just drawing. I said, would you show me what you're drawing? He said, would you really like to see it? I said, yeah. So he held up his book, his pad, and on it, at the very top of the page, was a church with
Hmm.
a cross on it and a path from the front door wandering into a cemetery,
Hmm.
wandering by tombstones. And at the very bottom was a big tombstone that said, my dad.
Ah.
Oh my
Wow.
God, what a beauty, And
Yeah.
no criticism of mom. She just didn't realize
Yeah.
what the boy was doing.
Hmm.
So I had mom learn how to draw and communicate her feelings in drawing. And I had little boy put some words to his drawings. So
Mm. So they
Wow.
can understand each other's language. Beautiful.
yes,
Right.
they became bilingual.
Wow.
They became bilingual.
That is
Oh,
so cool.
yeah. And so that's another tool that is out there that is so very helpful.
Um, and I want to talk about those tools. So you have a lot of tools that you've developed over in the last 10 years. And I know that you're also involved in communities where you're getting this out there and getting this a part of the communal education systems.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that, Stephen, because I think it's important people hear the impact you're making and how you're doing it.
Well, I'm a baby boomer.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1.7 billion of me on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But let's dumb that down a little bit. There's 1.2 million baby boomers in British Columbia
Mm-hmm.
in an environment that has 28,000 long-term care beds in the entire province,
Mm-hmm.
10,000 hospital beds, and 401 hospice beds. Okay, you get the idea?
Balance, yeah.
We got a demand issue. What's going
Mm-hmm.
to happen is boomers are going to necessarily be dying in the family home. I asked myself the question, are we ready? And the answer was no. What do we need to do to get ready? Well, we got to study death, dying, grief, and loss. We got to get ready. So 4 years ago, I started creating an end of life doula program. And with the support of Rhodes Wellness College here in Vancouver, we've come up with one. And we've created the end of life doula program. It's a 6-month program. I don't believe you can learn all you need to learn about death and dying in a 3-day weekend workshop or a 5-day workshop. It's a, it's a piece of work because there's so much to it.
Totally.
So we created it. We opened the doors a year ago, and each class has been sold out. We've trained 110 death doulas in a year so far. And my passion, my goal is to create an army of death doulas that can go out into community and work with families and work with streets and work with blocks. Let's bring death back into the family home where it belongs. Let's
Hmm.
bring grief back into the village where it belongs. Death is a family affair. Grief is a communal affair. Come on, let's bring the neighborhoods back. So that's what I'm working on, teaching
Mm-hmm.
people how to be advocates for death and advocates for grief and to
Well,
bring back into life.
I think you hit on another point as well, to where, we're seeing families now, they are kind of, shipping out the A gene.
Yep.
And it's just like, no, I'll have somebody else take care of it. This is becoming inconvenient for me in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
life, and et cetera. Now, mind you, I think there's a line to draw as far as if they need
Yes.
medical care on a
100%.
regular basis and things like that.
100%.
But I see a lot of it more out of convenience.
Yep. And
And
a little deeper, Ross, a little deeper than that
Mhm.
is when I look at my dying parents or my aging in-laws, ooh, that's me too. I don't want to look at my own death. I don't want to look at theirs because it's reminding me of my own.
Right.
Oh, that's another piece of
Mortality,
it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's let's push it away. Let's push it away. But we
Hmm.
won't be able to do that any longer because there's already an 18-month wait list to get into long-term care homes
Yeah.
in BC. And we're just at the beginning of the tsunami of the baby boomers' death. Just at the beginning. There'll be no care homes around.
Hmm.
There won't be any beds available. We'll have to do it at home. And
Yeah.
so let's do it at home, but let's do it well. Let's do it with grace and dignity and a bit of humor.
So, and
Hmm.
I think that, a lot of the audience is in some situation where it's either happening to them now or it's going to happen very soon.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this will resonate with a lot of the audience. And um, the I think the rainbow unicorn world of us being prepared for it is awesome. What happens in a situation? Because, for example, I know in my family alone, in the last 12 months, I've had two cousins way younger than me commit suicide. Or one attempted and succeeded, and the other didn't, and ended up he's currently in hospital. Um, he's in a coma and has been for a couple of months now.
Yep.
How does someone deal with something like that? And because that's the shock, right? It's like, oh my God, I didn't get ready for it. Like, how do people um, go through that and still navigate all the things that we've been talking about and do the best they can with with the circumstance?
Those types of death, Gary, thanks for bringing them up. Drug overdoses are becoming more and more common.
Yeah.
Suicides, murders,
Mhm.
those sudden, traumatic, unexpected deaths are incredibly hard to deal with. And in my experience, have always required the support of a good grief counselor, a great
Mhm.
death doula, and oftentimes trauma-informed counselors.
Mm.
When that sort of death happens, it's like a sledgehammer driving the grief into your body, like it just like
Yeah.
bang, and it
Yeah.
goes in deep and it sits in deep, and all kinds of emotions come up that don't get linked with the grief, like rage or anger.
Yeah.
People feel horrible
Or
that,
denial.
yeah, or denial.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So those
Yeah.
those fiery energies, people don't know what to do with them. And so they
Mhm.
try and push them away and just cry, but they can't because they're angry at their loved one for taking their own life, or they're angry at their loved one for using drugs. You know,
Yeah.
it
Or
with
they create self-blame. Was it because of me? And there's
yes.
so many dynamics of that could happen,
Right.
right?
Oh yeah, the guilt, the
Yeah.
guilt around drug overdoses, the guilt around suicides. If only I
Mhm.
had have said, if only I
Yeah.
had have done,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
only I
Yeah.
didn't say, if only I
Yeah.
didn't do. All
Yeah.
that guilt is part of it too. And guilt is one of those energies that won't let us heal. If we're feeling shitty, we're not going to allow ourselves to grieve. We're
We
not going
just did an
to
interview with someone who wrote a book all on forgiveness. So it's like it's totally
and
about
Yeah.
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 totally.
Yeah.
And it's hard, Gary. When
Yeah.
when you look at a loved one who's taken their own life, um, man, oh man, it's difficult. And
Mhm.
all the wish I hads and the wish I hadn't, it just comes roaring up, and whew, it takes a lot of work. When you have suffered a death that way, a traumatic death, my encouragement is right away go get some help, because it's a real complex map. Death itself is a complex map, but
Yeah.
traumatic death is like death on steroids.
And so I'm just trying to put myself in that type of experience. So if that were to happen, then I mean, I would see it as important for not just me, but also the family members. But how do we get
Mhm.
that message across to the family members that are not ready for
With patience,
that?
because
Okay.
you can walk a horse to a trough, you can't make it drink. And so with some families, one or two are ready, three or four aren't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
work with the one or two, and in the presence of the three or four who aren't quite ready, and so that they
Mm.
can see,
Yep.
What's going on, and
they
yeah,
can
the
see.
healing.
And
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
can't make anybody heal. This is the thing I've learned over the years is I can't force anybody to grieve. I can't force anybody to heal. I can't do that. I can invite though, and I
Yeah.
can provide some information, you know,
Hmm.
with regards to drug overdoses. I've done a fair bit of work with families here in Maple Ridge because we've lost a lot of young people. And
Hmm.
just giving them a roadmap about what their grief could look like was so helpful for them, right?
That's a great
Mhm.
idea. Yeah. Because
Because
that unknown, right? It's
yeah,
that and
Right.
daily, moment by moment
yeah,
unknown. Yeah. And to have a roadmap can kind of give them some sort of solace or understanding of what's happening.
yeah.
That's
Here's the map.
beautiful.
Here's the walk, and you're going to do it differently. Grief is a form of
It's the
art.
walking stick you're giving them, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
and it's an art form.
Nice.
It's not a science, because look at the three of us. We're very different fellows. We're each
Hmm.
going to grieve in a different way, at a different pace, at a different time.
Mhm. Sure.
And so we've got to become,
For a different person, because different
yes,
depending on the individual too. Yeah.
yeah, what was your
Right.
relationship with the one who died? If it
Yeah.
was a
100%.
relationship, it's going to be different. If it was a
Yeah.
thin relationship, it's going to be different. But
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
so it's like becoming a grief's artist in a way,
Yeah.
and helping
Yeah.
people find the right paintbrush and the right color and the right canvas that suits their needs, their tempo, their relationship, and their death.
And that's so
Mhm.
important because I think that, so many people think that the way they process, and it goes back to your languages, that the way they do is the way that everybody else should do it. And if they don't do it that
Right.
way, there it's
I know.
are you
Yeah.
not emotional, or don't you like they have these things, um because yes, I process things differently than most people in my circle of influence. um And and just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And I think that's important to get across,
100%.
is that we each have our own individual ways of doing this based on so many variables, from what we've been exposed to, what we've processed, what we've dealt with. There's so many things, and I think the audience needs to know that it's okay wherever you're at, right?
Yeah,
And to let other people be okay with where they're at too.
100%. Nothing's broken, nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
So Stephen, how do you, since there are so many different languages involved in this, how do you determine if somebody is processing
Yep, good question.
or not?
Um, you can tell, and it's so hard to quantify. But
Mhm.
if somebody's truly grieving at their own rate,
Mhm.
their own pace, and their own way, you notice there's a journey, and it's not a straight ahead journey. It's all over the place, but they're moving.
Mhm.
And they're moving forward with their loss. They're moving forward with their grief. They're moving forward with their deceased loved one. But
Mhm.
there's motion. They're moving ahead with their life. Yes, there may be moments when they're just deep in their grief and they're on the couch and they're bawling their eyes out and stuffing popcorn down their throat. Perfect. The
Yeah.
next day it's a little different. The next day it's a little different. You can see the motion, you can see the fluidity. I worked with
Mhm.
a woman in New York City whose daughter was struck dead by a drunk driver at 2 o'clock in the morning. She was an artist. So I said to her, instead of talking to me about how you're feeling, what do you
Mhm.
think? You want to do a painting for me? She went, I could paint my grief out? I said, hell yeah. She said, bye. She hung up, went
That's
straight to
great.
her studio, and she created a series of 9 paintings
Nice.
called Pain Has No Color.
Hmm.
His painting was dark blues, dark reds, blacks, stab marks in the canvas, black bloody tears just pouring out. The last painting she did was an 18-month process because it was a traumatic grief. It was sudden and unexpected. So
Hmm.
time. The last
Hmm.
was a picture of her daughter walking into the sunset and into a rainbow. She had her daughter back in a very different way. That
Right.
painting looked way different than the first one, but the first one resulted in the last one. So you can
Right.
see the flow.
That was her travel.
That was her
Right.
voyage. And
Yeah.
grief is a journey.
So, but you said something though that really struck me is that she responded to you as that you gave her permission. I can do it that way.
Yes.
And that's where we talked about, we touched on this a little bit earlier, is that people are stuck in what they see on TV or what they read in the books or what their friends say they should do. This is what you should do. Follow this.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it's just like society has given you your own language. This is the language that you have to use. It's a
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very defined, and people
yeah.
are struggling, going, I don't want to do that, and so they just pull
Pull back.
back. They pull
And
back. They go inwards.
yep.
They shut down.
Their blood pressure goes up, their eating habits change, they may start to
Right.
drink too much, they may have night terrors or night traumas. All kinds of stuff starts to go sideways because that life force needs to move.
Right. Okay.
My deep belief, I used to work in the downtown east end of Vancouver with the homeless and the addicted. And the common denominator down there amongst every person I worked with was unexpressed grief.
Mm.
I got to make my grief go away. Bang, fix, bang, fix,
Yeah.
Mm.
bang, right?
Yeah.
Everybody that I worked with, and there were hundreds of them, beautiful, amazing people, had suffered childhood trauma,
Right.
Mm.
suffered deep, profound grief that had no expression, no way out. They were always made wrong. So they made their grief go away by
Right.
drinking, over drugging, overeating, over shopping. My
Hmm.
personal belief is all obsessive compulsive behaviors are sitting on top of the kinetic energy we call grief.
Hmm. And what did you do to relieve them of that?
I sat with them as a brother or a sister.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
asked them some questions. What's your name?
Yeah.
What happened? What's your story? I just asked them questions like that. Some of them
Hmm.
would write, some of them would draw, some of them would walk with me.
Hmm.
Everybody has their own way of expressing it. So I just
Right.
found their way because I was curious about the human condition and I gave a shit about them.
Hmm.
They're all divine people, just like us,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? They all have a right to a good life, good support, good food, good health. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
make sure it happens. So that's, grief is a big deal. It's a big deal. And we are a grief-stricken culture in North America.
Hmm.
Look at climate change.
Yeah.
Look at the political environment. Look at the economic
Hmm.
environment. There's grief everywhere,
Yeah.
dying all over the place, and we just think it's news.
Mm.
We're going so
Yeah.
fast, we don't even give ourselves an opportunity to catch up with the grief that just happened as we're watching
Yeah.
the forest fire.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
as I told Ross before this, that I've got so many questions. And we're coming close to the end of this hour, but we'll definitely have you back for more. And we want you definitely right before the launch of the book to come back and talk specifically about that and the tools within that, because I think that's valuable. I do want to kind of, if you can kind of share for family members that are caring for dying loved ones or soon to be,
Yeah.
what are some top suggestions that you can give, be it rituals or steps that they can take for that time frame?
Yep. If you know that a loved one's got 6 months or 9 months worth of time and they're still cognizant and present, there's so much we can do. First
Mhm.
and most important thing as the care provider is take great care of yourself. Care provider needs to take great care of themselves,
Hmm.
Yeah.
mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, because we're
Mm.
pre-grieving. We've got a best by date,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
pre-grieving the loss, even though our loved one is still with us.
Yeah.
So families, I encourage them to have a grief journal where they can just write it out or draw it out.
Nice.
I encourage them to have conversations about and with your loved one. Hey, what's something you're leaving behind? What's something you're proud of? What's something that you'd like us to remember you by? Conversations like that. Um, Being willing to cry with our loved one because death is sad. So cry with,
Mm.
and we have this funny thing that we should be strong for our loved one who's dying. That's not true. True strength is being with them emotionally and let them see the sadness. When my mom, I went back to see her a week before she died. We spent 3 weeks together and man, oh man, we cried. But it was tears of love and tears of joy and tears of sadness. And we just spent time talking to each other. Mom, I'm just so glad you were my mom. I'm blessed. We had
Mm.
a good family, and I told her why. And mom said, will you guys remember me in a year? That's a question most people are dying to ask, but they don't want to ask it because it's so uncomfortable. So my mom said that. Will you guys remember me in a year? I said, oh, hell, mom, you bet we will. I'm going to have some of your ashes on my altar in my home office. I'm going to have your picture right there. I'll remember you forever.
Hmm.
And she started to cry. She said, will you really? I said, yes, mom, I really will. So things like
Hmm.
that are important, just to be honest and human with each other, not to be, I got my shit together. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Most
Hmm.
importantly, I think if I had to leave one piece of wisdom, ask your loved one, do they want to die in the company of the family or do they want to die alone?
Hmm.
Some people, especially men, want to die alone.
Hmm.
So the family gets all the schedules organized, and there'll be somebody with dad for every minute of every hour of every day.
Hmm.
And somebody goes for a pee, and dad looks around. There's nobody in the room. He dies,
See you later. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
having how do you want to die? Who do you want to have in the room with you? Do you want
Hmm.
to have music playing? Do you want to have some incense burning? We got my brother's room full of Montreal Canadian memorabilia, hockey hats, shirts, all kinds of stuff. And we made the hospice room his bedroom because that's the last room he's going to be in.
Right.
Let's make it a fun room for him if that's his wish. And it was,
Mhm.
so just being honest and open and straight. It's hard to do, but it's so rewarding when you do.
Is that your way also of relieving their fear?
Yes, yes, yes. Let's do this together. Death
Hmm.
is a family affair.
Hmm.
It's not
Right.
it's the individual dying, but it's a family affair. And we need to help each other as we do that. I want my boys around. I want to be playing cribbage to my last breath, and I want to skunk Oliver.
That's
So
funny.
those sorts of things are really important. What do you want to
Yeah.
eat? And noticing your loved one's not going to be eating so much, so don't force feed them,
Hmm.
Hmm.
right? Because that's another thing is, oh, come on, you got to drink some more. You got to eat some more. No, 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 no,
Yeah. And
no.
that's about you, not about them, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
How do we make it about the one dying? They're the one we're serving. After the
Yeah.
death, we'll serve you. Right now, we're serving the one dying. Let's
Mm.
make it a death that they'll remember.
Yeah.
That's excellent. That
Yeah.
is excellent. I think that's the best takeaway
Hmm.
here. I mean, it really is. It's like, we want to comfort them, but a lot of them, again, they have that conditioning of the Reaper who's
Yep.
waiting for them in the darkness, yeah. And when it's not that, but they're conditioned that way. And so they're designed to be fearful.
Yep. And, existentially, death is an awakening opportunity.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
a Buddhist sect of monks who are focusing on their last breath so that they can be conscious when they exhale, so they actually are aware that they're leaving their body.
Mm,
Just saying.
right.
All kinds of different ways to look at it.
Hmm.
Yeah. And every time I talk with you, Stephen, I think for me, it's, I'm reminded that confronting death isn't just about facing the end. It's about embracing the fullness of life. And in all our conversations, I always get that from you. And when we allow ourselves to actually acknowledge that loss, the vulnerability and the inevitable, right? Then we have this opportunity to open up doors to deeper connections, greater compassion,
Yes.
and the beauty found in every fleeting moment, right? And I mean, you and I, we always jam and kind of go in all kinds of different directions, but definitely that's what I get from you. And I know that that's what people pick up from your material and your consulting and your presence. And I'm grateful for that. I appreciate that. And I love you, brother, man. It's we've
Thank
been
you.
on quite the journey already together, and I look forward to what we have in store for us in the future too.
Me too. Me too. And
Yeah.
Awesome.
we're just beginning, guys. We're just
Yeah. Just beginning at the end.
There we go.
All right, man. So, why don't you share where people can, connect with you and get in touch with you and absorb your
beginning.
content, and then we'll kind of wrap up the interview for today.
Sure.
Until next time, because like I said, I've got a list of questions that we haven't even touched on yet.
Awesome. So they can go to griefswalkingstick.com
Nice.
and they'll see a page that looks something like this book cover. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
all my information
Okay.
is there. And
Awesome.
I'm happy to chat with any of your listeners. If they wanted to email me at Stephen, Stephen, at embraceyourdeath.com. I'm open
Nice.
to receive questions. Um, I'm just committed to helping each and everybody die with a smile on their face.
Nice.
That's so good. That
Awesome.
is so good. That's a good tagline. Stephen, it has been an absolute pleasure to have a discussion with you about this and to open my eyes and open our audience's eyes that, they've uh, they've been hoodwinked.
Yep, we have. Yep. The,
Yeah.
the biggest gift
And
we
you know
can
what, it's again, it's a whole other topic, but the whole, and even as we're talking today, just came up to me, and that all the like you, and I like the branding of death, and how it's kind of evolved over the years, is actually very similar to the branding of birth and the birth process, which
Yeah.
is a whole other topic. So
Yeah.
we could leave that door open.
I've got a student in my death doula program who's a birth doula.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to have her in the class because she's
Hmm.
noticing the
The
similarity.
parallels. Yeah.
The spirit lands in the body at birth, the
Yeah.
spirit leaves the body at death. She's just seeing this whole beautiful loop. And
Just the whole, and the medicalization of it and all that kind of stuff. Because I used to do hypnobirthing, right? So and that was part of it. We had to teach people about, okay, here's why the experience is the way that it is, because you've been conditioned to think this, and all those things. And but yeah, I think there's so many parallels, but that's a whole other topic for sure.
Hmm.
indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
maybe
we'll have your birth doula on here too, as a
Hey,
chat. That'd be cool.
thought was crossing my mind.
Yeah.
and
You know,
maybe we do something specifically for the guys.
That's a good idea.
Because
hmm.
when I look out at the world in my death doula courses, we have 22 students max. It's usually 22 gals and 2 guys,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because guys just don't get this whole piece.
We've been conditioned to be hard, right? We've been conditioned
Yeah.
to, yeah, that's a
Uh,
whole, yeah.
and
Hmm.
I think we more than any of either, we don't want to face our mortality.
Nope. Nope. We
Hmm.
trained out of it.
So,
And,
yeah.
and yet, if you sit with veterans, they have a whole different take because they
Yeah.
face death on the front lines, man. They have wow.
Hmm.
They're very unique individuals. I have a high
Yeah.
regard for our veterans.
Yeah. And they have to come
Hmm.
to terms with it. It's to be in that place. They have to see that, hey, it could happen today.
I'm
Yeah.
on the front line, and that son of
Yeah.
a bitch got a gun, and it's
Right.
pointed at me.
It's going to happen on one side of the line.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's another piece that maybe we talk about too, is what Dr. Ken Doka coined, disenfranchised grief.
Hmm.
And you'll hear it all the time.
Hmm.
Well, look, your wife died 6 months ago. Get over it. You should get another relationship. Go find another woman.
Wow.
Or
Hmm.
look, it was just a dog. Let's get you another dog. So what disenfranchised grief is I got grief
Hmm.
going on here that I haven't fully expressed. Gary's grieving. His grieving disturbs my grieving. I don't like it, so I got to make him settle down.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Right? So I
got it.
settle him down so that
Yeah.
Right.
my grief settles down because I don't like my grief. And he's grieving. No, 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 no. You know?
Yep. I hear
Very
that. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah. I remember when our dog, we had a dog and we had her for 17 years.
yeah.
So when she passed, I mean, it was very difficult, but
Yeah.
we grieved for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Almost 2 years. We're just like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for another one. I'm not ready, And it's where what you just said, a lot of people just go get a replacement. It's like it's not you don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were an individual dog, not a dog.
Yeah.
Right.
My
Yeah.
cat
Exactly.
Tiberius is not doing so well. He's got
Yeah.
6 months, maybe a year left. And he's Tiberius. He's
Hmm.
not a cat,
Yeah.
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
Stephen. I'm not a human.
Hmm.
And sometimes pet loss
It's
is
interesting.
more challenging than human loss because our pets, their love of us is more condition free.
Hmm. Yeah.
If I don't empty out, Tiberius's litter box and clean it and feed him, he doesn't shit all over me and give me hell for leaving the toilet seat up. My wife does,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes our love for our
So
pet,
you're kind of sounding like death is more of a relief. And now I can live like a bachelor, like I've always wanted to.
keep that toilet seat lit up.
That's awesome. But that's a really interesting concept, though.
Yeah, especially for our kids who lose a pet,
Yeah. Hmm.
because
Yeah,
there's
it
so
really
much
is.
they're really connected to their pets.
Yeah.
So not to hurry them and not to replace
Hmm.
the individual pet with another pet.
Yeah.
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 You know, and, I helped a family friend of mine whose house burnt down, their pet burnt with a house, and oh my gosh, the three
Mm.
kids and the mom and the dad were so sad. And so we just did lots of rituals and made a little
Mhm.
grave site for the little dog, and they didn't rush to get a new one. They just couldn't.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
2 years later, they were ready, and
Yeah.
they got Nula.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Maybe we do a piece on rituals too, because rituals are so
Definitely want to do
misunderstood.
that. So that's on my
Oh
list of
my
things to talk
gosh.
about for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
You know, and I, until you said it at the beginning of the show, I never thought about the connection between death and religion.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, and I read a lot, and I've never heard it put that way, and I'm just like, damn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, you want to something to be perpetuated, just create a ritual out of it,
Yeah, they franchised it, right? Yeah.
and then
Right.
and then monetize it.
Yeah, the Catholic
That's
Church.
crazy.
It's a
That's
great
just
brand.
crazy.
So
Wow.
when
All
you start
right.
to look at this stuff, it gets pretty interesting.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys. That was so much fun.
it's
Yeah,
our
100% for
pleasure.
sure.
Absolutely our pleasure. We can't wait. Yeah, Gary had a list of questions prior to this show. I have another list of questions that's going to be his has to wait till the next show, so then mine has to wait till the show after that. And Gary, I think we're going to do a summit of some sort.
Right?
This
Yeah, we should. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
would be awesome.
good idea.
All right, brother. Thanks
All
for being
right.
with us, man, and
Thank you
being
so
here and
much.
sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And I think the audience will really resonate with this, and it'll do a lot of good out there.
Yeah.
I sure hope so, and I look forward to the next time. And when I get copies of my book, I'll send you each a copy with my
Oh, thank
autograph
you.
on it.
Fantastic.
Love it.
We would
All right,
love it.
fellas.
Take
Thanks
Stay
so
care.
much.
well, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.